I'm a fast speaker. I'm the last delegation, so I'll talk real fast. Okay, my name's Roseanne Della-Penna. I'd like to say to the councillor, I think you're doing a great job, and I'm always ranting and raving about how good a job you're doing. Ray Green deserves a raise. Oh, you can't hear me? Do I really need? Okay, Ray, I think you're doing a great job. Dominic, thank you for fixing the sidewalk when I asked you to. Tom, I like it because you go to a lot of these committee meetings that I go to. Okay, a couple of things that bring me out are trees. Trees, and the next thing is signage. I work in Toronto. In 2003, I had a brain injury, and I'm very conscious of visual signs that make my brain tired. Driving into Toronto, you see all the stuff, I'm bombarded. I like driving in Oakville because I didn't get that feeling, but ever since our old sign bylaw was defeated, I'm starting to notice that there's a sea of visual, I'm going to say diarrhea, happening, and it's getting worse. I think we've got to nip it in the bud. I wanted to say to the first gentleman that spoke tonight that Oakville's my home, it's my community. We're not a billboard that's up for sale. Like, you know what? We're not a community up for sale. I think that's been one of our best features. Oakville's beautiful, and I want to keep it that way. I don't want it to be like Toronto. Guys, I got $600 worth of parking tickets in Toronto in 3 months because I couldn't figure out their signs, and I was studying their signs. I still got the tickets. I figured it out. I'm not getting any more parking tickets. I want Oakville signs to be clear, concise, and guys, not too many. Ever since our old sign law bylaw was defeated, I come home on the QEW, I go down Kerr. Where Food Basics is, there were 3 mobile signs, one right after the other. I have a brain injury, guys. For me to read all those, I could cause a car accident. So my brain is like a senior's brain. We have a lot of seniors in the community. It's going to become a health and safety issue. In other words, if you're allowing mobile signs, guys, limit the number on a property. Today I drove my mom to the doctor, and where the hospital was, there was a medical building. There was a mobile sign. I've driven by that medical building many years. I appreciated the beauty of that building. There was a mobile sign in front of that building. The size of that mobile sign in comparison to the building was too large. It's tacky. I don't want Oakville to be tacky. We're going to have to put guidelines in to looking at the size of the mobile sign or any signage in relation to the size of the building. When I drive on the QEW, I can tell when I hit Mississauga because their font size on buildings in relation to the size of the building is 30% of the buildings, whereas Oakville deals with subtle, classy beauty. It's very subtle. The signage is lower. So I want guidelines into the size of the font. Okay, I was driving to work yesterday on Ford Drive. What a beautiful drive on my way to work. Some guy, snowplower, I'm not calling this guy, he had 20 signs. Like, can we limit the number of signs that one merchant can put on there? What I'd like to say to the merchants of Oakville, 3 Confucius principles: to be prudent of words, not to be boastful, and to let your reputation speak for itself. So when people come and say we need to advertise, why do you need to advertise? What are you not doing in your business that could be said in fewer words? Okay, so Ford Drive I talked about. Number of mobile signs on a property. Driving up here, Ford dealership on Trafalgar. They're advertising craft. That's third-party advertising that you're talking about. And the first gentleman today said that the only people that can third-party advertise is the town of Oakville. Well, I say if somebody wants to third-party advertise, let them buy a building, pay property taxes in our community, and then they can put up the sign that they want. They shouldn't have to go to a Ford dealership and advertise their craft. It's tacky. We have to stop. I don't want us to edge on that side of tackiness. Okay, at the end of my street, there's a stop sign, and somebody's put an interlocking business. Isn't there some sort of, that they're not allowed to do that on Town of Oakville poles? Like, is there something saying that you can't, so they can't do that? And on the back of stop signs, people are advertising. Toronto, if you go into Toronto, their parking meters are all plastered with all these. I don't want us to become another Toronto. Ray, you need to go work in Toronto. Okay. Okay. So these guys, this is what I want. I want our fees increased. I loved it because you charge the developers high fees. Damn it, they deserve to you know what? We're an excellent community. They want to come here, you pay the fees. If they want to advertise, you know what? We can't take away your right, pay the fees. Make those fees high. I would prefer no third-party advertisement, but if you're going to do it, charge the fees. I want bylaw signs reviewed annually. I want us to take a look at the size of the font in relation to the size of the building. Color doesn't bother me as long as it's not red, yellow, or orange. They're ugly colors. I know. I've been studying it. On my honey to-do list, I'm going to have honey take pictures of signs I don't want and bring it to council. He's not going to like that at all. Okay, I want mobile signs set back. You guys can listen or not listen. Limit the number of mobile signs and really address the health and safety issues of a lot of the signage. Having a brain injury, I'm more cognizant of the visual impact it has. And if you're driving and the weather conditions aren't right, it needs to be addressed. Okay, another thing is I don't want the big billboard signs like they have in the QEW close to Toronto. Now they're putting those TV monitors. I noticed in one section where I think IKEA is, there's I think 5 or 6 of those like the TV commercials. Please don't do anything like that in Oakville, please. I beg of you. The other thing is I'd like Oakville to do something innovative as far as advertising to keep the merchants happy. Why don't we have a Rib Fest in April and allow all the merchants to have their time, like a Super Bowl commercial fest. So we're enjoying our Rib Fest and we can watch the commercials of Oakville merchants. And once again, Confucius says, to be prudent of words, not to be boastful, and to let your reputation speak for itself. Thank you for listening. Okay, bye, guys.
Thank you
You're doing a great job. Ray, we need you in Toronto.
Thank you very much for your information. You've made Councillor Bird very happy tonight.
Well, I can tell by your numbers of views if we're on the same wavelength.
Are you ever on the same wavelength? All right. Madam Clerk, is that the extent of our delegation?
That completes the delegation list, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Council. Then in that case, if you'll turn to your agenda, you have your standing committee reports from Community Services on October 25th and Administrative Services on October 25th, and the confidential report of the closed session of the Administrative Services Committee, October 25th. Councillor Johnston? Councillor Johnston moves them. Councillor Duddick seconds. Councillor Adams?
Can I ask our staff a few questions about item CSC 1, the traffic bylaw?
When you're done, I have a couple after Councillor Knoll.
Sorry, the mics were...
There's going to be, Councillor Knoll, Councillor Elgar, and I also have questions for staff on that item.
Okay. So my questions are, can you give us an update on the Pinery Park parking lot and the repairs to the trail?
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Adams has asked for some information on an existing limestone screen path that connects an existing parking lot that is at the east end of Pinery Trail. We're working on that information, should be able to have something by the end of the week and be pleased to report back to either the Budget Committee or a CSC.
Okay. If, could we defer this item or refer it back to allow for consultations or to allow for us to determine what the school board is changing on their school site?
If you want to take the signs down, the deferral would pardon?
I understand the director has a 30-day window, and that's what it's under right now. And so if we refer it or defer it, then the 30-day window ends. And so presumably the signs have to come down. So my question is, what would have to happen to allow for further consultation to introduce a different set of changes? For example, one could imagine other options that could be considered. I want to understand what that would look like.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, currently the enforcement of the new regulations is being undertaken through delegated authority by the Director of Engineering and Construction, which is a 30-day window. So when that 30 days expires, there is no longer a legal ability to enforce the signage that has been put out on the road. So by deferring or referring this back to staff for further information, the enforcement of the current signage would stop. I think we would probably prefer to bag the signs or do something temporarily so that the people on the street understand what the regulations are until such time as council decides how they want to proceed. And subject to council providing direction, we would, I suppose, be coming back with some of the options that you sound like you are seeking.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
and-
That's
So,
that's sort of
Council,
the information I wanted.
my advice would be, if you wish to explore changes to the situation, to be consistent and to avoid gyrations, you should adopt the bylaw and adopt changes to it after consultation, and that way you aren't going back and forth and confusing the public. It's possible that the number of spots for cars being added to the school and added to the park might more than replace the number of spots being lost on Darlington for a net gain for the school. And this council's position has always been that the school board should provide, well, actually our position with all landowners has been that in only the exception of the downtown, they have to provide parking for they have to have enough land to support the use that they're making of their land. So, Councillor Knoll, you were next.
Thank you, Worship. So I have a couple questions. First of all, I wasn't in CSC because I was busy dealing with signs with my colleagues in ASC, so I don't have the benefit of all of the discussion that happened there. So if I ask some questions that were dealt with, I apologize. The first question I have is, can you provide details of the poll that was done? Because I don't see it in our materials. And I'd just like to know when it was done, how many people participated, what the vote was, et cetera.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Cozy probably would be able to answer that question more directly than I could. But the poll was taken after council decided that we were going to implement some sort of prohibitions, and it was a matter of providing the residents of Darlington Trail one or two or three options that they could pick from. And the results were implemented. But Mr. Cozy can speak to that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe it was over two-thirds. We require a minimum of two-thirds support from the community, and it was all but one resident on Darlington that supported the poll to introduce the restrictions as proposed by Community Services Committee.
So it was the participation rate of the poll was all but one person?
Yeah, it was in the 90% range.
No, I know, but are you saying it's 90% of the people who participated, or 90%, or I'm trying to ascertain how many members of the community actually participated?
A vast majority of the residents on Darlington participated. I don't remember the exact amount here, but it was most of the homes on Darlington responded, and all but one were in support of the changes.
Okay, the second question is with respect to the report, the staff report on July 19th. The staff took a position of maintaining the status quo, which at the time was, I guess, no signage, no restrictions on the street, other than the typical restrictions. Has the staff's position changed on this at all from an engineering perspective?
No.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chair, or Mr. Mayor, I think just to clarify the response, the technical report that we provided to committee back in August was based on the evidence that we had before us, and the road does function and can allow for this sort of activity to go on, we believe, in a safe manner. We were responding to a request from the specific residents of this particular road who were finding it problematic. I think, as the mayor alluded to, we have to be careful that as much as the street can allow for it in terms of its design, the school also has a role to play in ensuring that perhaps using Darlington Trail could be used as a convenience, but the delegations we're hearing from today, it's almost like it's a requirement for this parking to occur in order for the school to function properly, and that creates some difficulties in our mind to think that it's a fundamental aspect of providing service to the school. So from that perspective, we certainly would find it problematic. And I think the regulations on the street prior to the committee meeting, there was no parking on one side of the street, and the other side of the street had no prohibitions other than the 3-hour parking townwide bylaw.
Third question, was this particular location, this school location, was it always designated as a school location? So during the subdivision process, was it a designated location of a school? Would the residents that were buying in that subdivision have known, including the residents in Darlington, that the school was going to be present?
I'm fairly certain that would be the case, yes.
Thank you to the staff. Thank you, Worship.
Councillor Auger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of information tonight, and certainly a lot more than we had at Community Services, where absolutely no one showed up at all. So it did just blow through pretty fast. My question is, how many schools in Oakville would have similar restrictions of streets where there's no stopping, no parking during those times of day throughout Oakville? Or is this a precedent-setting thing we are trying to do, which could escalate and become quite an issue going forward in many areas of Oakville?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can't give you an absolute number. I know through discussions earlier this afternoon with Councillor Adams, we were aware of at least one item, one issue in Ward 3 on David Avenue where there already were prohibitions for drop-off and pick-up along the side street adjacent to Lindbergh Public School. The Parents' Council came to the town asking that those prohibitions be removed, and Council supported the retention of those prohibitions. So there's at least one example in Ward 3 that we have allowed a side street nearby a school to have prohibitions that would preclude stopping and parking for pickup and drop-off of students. There could be others, but it's generally not a very broad, it's not done in a broad fashion.
Thank you very much for that. Another question is, was the school advised it was going to come to Community Services back on October the 25th, this issue of parking? Like, were they formally advised so that they would have been able to have come to the meeting?
They were involved in the meetings with the residents. They were, the principal, as was mentioned earlier, was invited to attend the on-site meetings with the local councilors and the residents. In terms of notification, because the staff report had indicated to maintain the status quo, the school wasn't specifically invited to attend the meeting.
In Oakville, we tend to do a lot of things at committee, which is where it should be done, instead of a council meeting like we're at tonight. I'd like staff's advice. Do you think it could be very meaningful if, in fact, we referred this back to Community Services one more time, where we would get the residents like who have children going to school and also residents that live on the street, so we can hear all sides of the issues here before we make a final decision?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it's quite clear in the early discussions with the principal of the school that they were taking more or less of a hands-off perspective and said that it's up to the people on Darlington Trail to make their own decision. That sounds like it's changed, so that information has been shared with us today as well as with the members of council. So there may be some merit in referring it back so it can be discussed in a more fuller manner with both the residents of the street as well as the residents who utilize this school for drop-off and pickup.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And I think look to my Ward 6 councillor, since it is in his ward, to hopefully refer this back. Thank you.
Councillor Dudek?
Thank you. If in the event this is referred back, I would like to encourage the mover of the motion to maybe incorporate that a invitation be extended to the Board of Education so that there is no chance of we didn't know about it, and we would encourage them to participate at that level.
All right, Council, before I go to Councillor Adams, I'm concerned that first off, the motion on the floor is for the entire report. We'll have to do a separation. That's not a problem. But before we go there, I believe that your more consistent approach is to adopt the bylaw, keep the status quo on the street, and direct staff to bring forward to the next CSC meeting an item to consider amendments to it, at which time everybody who wants to change it can come and talk about changes to it. Otherwise, you risk going back and forth, back and forth. You're much safer procedurally, for consistency's sake, to adopt the bylaw tonight as per the motion on the floor. And when we get to requests for reports, request staff to bring a report to CSC for possible amendments to it. You get to the same place, but you get there without flip-flopping. So, Councillor Adams.
I understand where you're going with that. I wondered if our staff could give us the dates for the next set of meetings. And I wanted to confirm that we'd have information about the Pinery Park lot and pathway then. One thing I was considering is when we would actually be able to do that work on the pathway, given the time of year. You know, if we were going to take away the restrictions and then put them back in, for example, once the parking lot and trail was remedied, to provide that relief valve.
Madam Clerk, could you give the councillor the dates?
Mr. Mayor, the dates for the next meetings of the CSC are actually November 15th, November 29th, or December 13th, and I would look to the staff as to when they could put that information together and what meeting they could actually target it for.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think for us to respond in an appropriate manner is not going to happen immediately. I think we have two key reports that are due before the end of the year. One to do with a request for a report on Great Lakes traffic calming, so the same staff who are involved in that issue would also be involved in this issue. Similarly, we're responding to a request for a report on the parking around the Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital for the Douglas Watson parking dynamic. And that is something we're actively working on as well to try to report back by the end of the year, and the same people who would be dealing with Darlington Trail are working on that report. So, you know, I know these agenda dates are on the calendar, but for us to realistically report back, I would think it would be early in the new year as opposed to before the end of this year. And I believe from the standpoint of the improvements to the parking lot or the maintenance of the parking lot and the trail, I think we would want to engage in some discussion with the Halton District School Board on that issue, because we can come up with the costs, but I think we would also like to explore, you know, who should be paying for those costs as part of leading up to the discussion at the committee meeting.
All right, so Council, I guess the remaining difficulty you have to give some consideration to is, you know, this is going to take Darlington Trail somewhat by surprise. And so it looks like you can't make a perfect decision here. Councillor Elgar.
I'll move referral back to staff of this item, since it takes precedent, referral does, and then I think it's straight. And we'll get all the information, and if it's a new year, and I think that's what I'm hearing, then that's why I would refer it back to, so we do it once and we do it right.
Well, you're out of order with regard to a motion, but the, all right, so, all right, if you separate the item and if the councillor separates his item and if he moves referral, then the Darlington Trail people will be surprised by a sudden about face, which will last until, I guess, January. So that's what you have to understand in that course. Councillor Grant and then Councillor Demoff.
Just with due respect, though, I don't think it's council's fault that these signs were put up before it was actually endorsed by council. So I don't see it as flip-flopping. I see it as a correcting mistake that was made. Given the amount of new information we've had tonight, I agree with Councillor Elgar. You know, this has certainly changed my perspective on the matter, and I think that we really do need to set this back and take a good look at the issue rather than just going with what's already up.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Demoff. All right. Councillor Adams.
So I would like to separate it, and I would like to refer it back for a further report, but I want to make sure that our staff are consulting with the school board that we're getting information about the Pinery Park and the remediation of the trail as part of that. Those are sort of the two key issues. I think it's been, in a way, it's been a useful exercise. It appears to have gotten the school board to the table in this case. And so maybe we'll get to a better place for everybody at the end of the day. Yes, it will cause a surprise for the residents on Darlington, but I hope that the school parents who have gone through this will be a little bit more conciliatory to those residents on Darlington and hopefully give them as much leeway as you can in terms of the use of their street, because it has been an issue for them, and hence it's been brought forward. And it was part of a transportation study dealing with the site plan of the school. So the school was there when the residents, I mean, they knew there was going to be a school behind them when they bought there. They didn't know it was going to be expanded. So, and they didn't know it was going to be 850 students, and at one time even higher. And I don't think the parents thought it was going to be 850 students either. And hence we've had the boundary review sending some of the kids down to Falgarwood into that area. So there's been a number of issues at the school that have caused the whole neighborhood issues, parents and neighbors combined. So I think this is probably the best course at the current time, and that's my motion.
All right, so Councillor Adams has asked to separate the item. That doesn't require a vote. And he's asked to refer it back to staff for the studies for the work that he's mentioned. And I'm sure he meant to include Councillor Duddeck's suggestion that the school board be invited to the meetings.
That was my intention when I said I want to know what the school board is doing, so yes,
All right.
absolutely.
Anything else being missed, or Councillor Demoff? Councillor Dutt?
We have the same question, actually. Will the signs be bagged or removed?
They'll probably be bagged, I think we heard. And I guess my office will deal with the shocked phone calls. Thank you very much, everybody. Councillor Duddeck.
Thank you. Just to assist in that regard, is there any way we could provide some sort of written notice to the residents on Darlington that what transpired this evening and that there will be meetings forthcoming, just so they do understand?
Yes, I should have said my office will do that. Thank you. Councillor Elgar seconds the referral. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? The item is referred. I'll call the main motion, which is Councillor Johnston's motion to adopt the rest of the committee reports. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that is adopted. All right, now, if we could have mover and seconder to resolve into committee of the whole. Councillor Elgar, Councillor Lapworth, all in favor? Oh, Councillor Bird? Turn on your microphone so we can understand.
You conjoined the community services and the ESC in one joint, and I asked for a separate vote on number 1 of the administrative services.
Sure, no problem. Administrative services, item number 1 is separated. Would you like to have a recorded vote?
I don't want to embarrass you any further. I just want to stay
I don't think anybody's embarrassed. It's just that procedurally that's the best way to do it.
All right, you'll have a recorded vote. That has the amendments of the sign bylaw with respect to mobile, what do they call them, mobile ads?
Yes. So
ask for a recorded vote.
Thank you. That's perfect. That's totally within our procedure. All those in favor of the report, please rise to be named. Councillor Adams, Councillor Grant, Councillor Knoll, Councillor Lapworth, Councillor Elgar, Mayor Burton, Councillor Demoff, Councillor Duddeck, and Councillor Johnston. And to be recorded negative, please rise. Councillor Giddings and Councillor Bird. Thank you very much, Councillor Bird, for that. So we're now in committee of the whole, or did I call that vote? I can't remember. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Now we're in committee of the whole. You have no consent items, but we do have a presentation to council from the Chief Administrative Officer, or at least we have his report, and that's the Roads and Works Operations presentation. Who's starting? Enrico? Councillor Knoll.
Is there any way that we can get our friends in IT to get the presentation working here? If there's going to be a PowerPoint, we're going to end up with crick necks if we don't have it on our screens.
And I've asked IT to bring
I'm not sure, Councillor Knoll. The technology has been fritzy all night, and we may have to pretend that it's 1952. We may have to do without PowerPoint. We have, is the chair next to you, is the station next to you?
it's not. The whole side's out. We can recess for 5 minutes. The other side's out.
They're okay?
They're all out. You're an enigma.
You'll have to pay more attention.
We're not going to, yeah, we can't.
All right, we could recess while the technical people try to deal with it, if there's any prospect that that could be fixed. But you've already tried, right?
I tried from remote, but they haven't.
Okay, so on this side of the room, we are before PowerPoint, just think of it. And on this side of the room, you are with PowerPoint. Would any of you like to trade? Oh, we have an empty seat over here for those of you. There's a vacancy over here.
Okay, we can.
All right. Thank you for that. That's a wonderful bit of levity with which to start. Enrico, it looks like you're up.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Burton and members of council. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an overview of Roads and Works operations and the services that we provide. My name is Enrico Scalera, and I'm privileged to represent this department, a department which has dedicated staff, is continuously improving its service delivery, and frankly, this department keeps Oakville moving. Our department is comprised of 3 divisions: Works Operations, Traffic Operations, and Fleet Operations. And in attendance tonight are the 3 key individuals that do a great job in leading and managing these 3 divisions, and I will ask them to stand and be recognized. Mark Covert, Manager of Works Operations. Mark is responsible for maintenance of the town's roadways and water resources infrastructures. Simon Tam, Manager of Traffic Operations. Simon is responsible for the operations and maintenance of the town's traffic control devices. And Ed Cass, Manager of Fleet Operations. Ed is responsible for the management and maintenance of the town's inventory of vehicles and equipment, excluding transit, of course. And I also want to acknowledge the past director of the department, who is also in attendance, Mr. Dan Cozy, and thank him for all his past efforts in leading this department, as many departmental improvements were realized under his direction. Thank you, Dan. All of Roads and Works activities fall within the town's infrastructure maintenance program, and I will start by identifying a few of the key services that we provide. Roads and Works operations keeps Oakville moving by ensuring our roads and bridges are in a state of good repair. We maintain a network of 1,900 lane kilometers, 870 kilometers of roads of sidewalks, and a total of 120 bridges and major culverts. On a cost recovery basis, we also provide road maintenance services for Halton Region on over 280 lane kilometers within the town. To give you an idea of how long of a road system this is, if we link together all of the town's road segments, they would stretch from Oakville to Winnipeg. We keep Oakville's storm sewers flowing by maintaining 1,500 kilometers of storm sewers, 118 kilometers of creeks and channels, and 22 stormwater ponds. This work includes maintenance of 8 kilometers of shoreline protection, spills response, debris removal from outfalls and creeks, and also removal of log jams. We keep Oakville clean with street and sidewalk sweeping, roadside debris, litter pickup, and graffiti removal. We keep the traffic moving efficiently and safely on Oakville's roads. We operate and maintain 120 signalized controlled intersections and over 28,000 traffic signs. On a cost recovery basis, we also maintain a further 280 signalized intersections for MTO, Region of Halton, Town of Milton, for a total of 400 signalized intersections. And we also provide traffic signal support services to Halton Hills, who are still developing their expertise in this operational area. We operate and maintain over 15,000 street lights and 650 continuous kilometers of pavement markings. To give you an idea of how many streetlight poles that is, if we place them from end to end, we could link Oakville to Niagara Falls. So the next time you drive to Niagara Falls, you can count the traffic poles as you get there. We keep the town's fleet moving by managing and fueling and maintaining over 250 vehicles and 1,100 pieces of equipment, including Oakville Hydro vehicles, which are serviced on a cost recovery basis. Looking at some of our seasonal activities, as you're aware, we're currently in the midst of our bulk loose leaf collection program. Through this service, we annually collect about 5,000 tons of bulk leaves, and you may be thinking, how much does 5,000 tons of bulk leaves look like? Well, it's equivalent to 300,000 yard waste bags or 12 Olympic-sized pools full of leaves. Another seasonal activity, school season, we manage 96 school crossing guard locations. These locations are manned by wonderful and dedicated staff whose goal is to ensure the safe passage of our young pedestrians. Of this group, we can boast of having Canada's favorite crossing guard, Jim Arnold, and if he didn't win it, it could have easily went to Evelyn Trotu or Grace Wake, both of whom go the extra mile by knitting hats, scarves, sweaters for kids, moms, and mobility challenged individuals, so they can not only pass safely, but also do so with warmth. And both of these ladies received awards in last year's CEO Awards of Excellence in the program area of customer service in the significant achievement category. Sooner or later, it's going to get here. And of course, we keep the traffic moving on the town's roads and sidewalks in the winter. Similar to our summer maintenance activities, we provide a cost recovery winter control services for the region of Halton on the regional roads within the town. And that also includes Dundas Street all the way through Burlington. Results from the recent satisfaction survey indicate 78% approval rating for the town's winter control operations. This rating is up 11% from the last survey. Now, this shouldn't be too surprising. We annually provide provide plow training for staff. We undertake winter road patrols 24/7. We have a unique two-shift system which enables round-the-clock coverage. We have an anti-icing program which bridges and main roads are treated to mitigate the buildup of snow and ice. And we plow residential sidewalks. And we hold our contractors accountable through performance-based evaluations. Now, our good ratings are also results of the direction and resources provided by you, Council, with improved BAA and laneway snow removal services, the implementation of Seniors Driveway Windroll Removal Program, and increased customer service resources for plow status updates and extended snow phone line coverage. However, we're not being complacent with these results. We continue to look at ways to improve. For example, this year we've implemented a second standby crew on weekends. This will improve our winter response capabilities and reduce our reliance on contracted service for long-duration minor events. Now, I'd like to highlight a few achievements. In 2008, we completed the conversion of all traffic signal heads to LED bulbs. LED signal heads are brighter, more energy efficient, offer increased visibility, even during bad weather conditions, and have a longer service life. Significant savings have resulted. On average, we are realizing $200,000 annually in hydro and maintenance cost savings. As we did with traffic signals, we are also planning to take advantage of the latest LED energy-saving technology for street lighting. LED street lights require less maintenance, reduce energy costs, and improve safety through increased visibility. With this implementation, we have the potential of saving $850,000 annually on hydro and maintenance costs. We've also implemented capital asset management programs in the areas of fleet and traffic operations. These include computer-based work order inventory control systems, and such systems will ensure our assets undergo the appropriate preventive maintenance activities in order to increase reliability, extend service life, and do so in the most cost-effective manner. In the next few years, we'll also be integrating the road and stormwater infrastructures into these systems. We've introduced environmentally friendly hybrid flex fuel and low emissions rated vehicles to our fleet. As well, we've expanded the use of ultra-low sulfur regular and biodiesel fuels, all of which have contributed to building a greener and more sustainable Oakville community. We're also continuing to explore alternative fuel technologies such as electric vehicles and our FleetWise partner, which is a program designed to help municipalities implement zero-emission vehicles such as plug-in hybrid or full electric. One day, hopefully, we will change the color of the electric vehicle in the upper right-hand corner from yellow to Oakville white, blue, and gold. We continue to improve our winter operations with the implementation of road salt best management practices. Our salt management plan was recently updated to reflect improvements to our equipment and operational strategies. Most notably, we've progressed from 13 to 100% of our winter fleet equipment having electronic spreader controls and pre-wet capabilities. This operational change alone has resulted in a reduced salt usage by at least 15%. We've also expanded our fleet capacity for anti-icing operations, which is a proactive winter maintenance operation that applies salt brine to roads in advance of a snowfall. This helps reduce black ice, as well as delays the buildup of snow on roads during a winter event. Now, there has been a lot of development in the use of alternative winter liquids for both pre-wet and anti-icing activities, and the town has been at the forefront of this study work. We've been involved in a joint study with the City of Burlington, MTO, University of Waterloo, for the evaluation of salt brine versus alternative bio-based engineered liquids for both the anti-icing and pre-wet applications. Trials were conducted on 6 continuous road segments, both in Burlington and Oakville. And what we've learned is that all liquids had similar performance in pre-wet activities, but the organic products outperformed salt brine for anti-icing operations. We are continuing with the study work, and we will determine how best the use of organic liquids can be utilized, and especially we're considering their use in salt-sensitive areas. We are working on more service improvement initiatives, such as a new two-way radio system that will be able to track and log vehicle movements. This will greatly improve our ability to manage operations both in summer and winter, and also when responding to emergencies, period. We've been proactive in several customer service initiatives, such as improved winter communication, the implementation of a web-based snowplow status application, and working with Service Oakville to pilot a customer relations management system that documents resident inquiries, tracks actions, and related correspondence. The information and experience gained through our CRM pilot work, combined with the town's customer service consolidation initiatives, will greatly assist the development of the CRM program and its integration into other town departments and asset management systems. Our town continues to grow. Over the past 10 years, our road network has increased 250 lane kilometers, and in the next 10, we can expect to add another 100 lane kilometers. Full build-out of North Oakville is expected to contribute a total of 250 lane kilometers of new roads to the town's infrastructure. As such, we are proactively reviewing and planning service delivery options for this expanded road network. We've mapped out service zones and are also the lead department in the planning and design of North Operations Depot, which will not only be a base of operations for roads and works, but also support parks and open space and temporarily the fire department. This facility will be key for all operational departments in delivering more efficient and sustainable services to the entire north half of Oakville and not only those areas north of Dundas. Providing efficient and quality services to the resident businesses of Oakville does not happen by chance. As shown through this presentation, we have been continuously reviewing our services, processes, and procedures in order to improve business practices and to ensure efficient delivery of services. This practice is not new, but has been entrenched into our operations for some time. It's a process that will continue so that this department will keep Oakville moving with strong support services for many years into the future. But I'm not the only one with this opinion. Based on the latest citizen satisfaction survey, our satisfaction ratings for roads and sidewalks are up 4% to 83%, while satisfaction with winter and sidewalk maintenance was up 11% to 78%. When compared to others, our ratings are comparable to slightly higher. And as mentioned earlier, such positive ratings are also a result of your continuous support and confidence in staff that allows us to be innovative and successful in the operation and maintenance of our road infrastructure and fleet inventories. That is the end of my presentation. I trust you'll agree that this department is responsible for a wide variety of town services, that we are innovative, continuously looking at ways to improve, we're cost and environmentally cautious, we're customer-driven, and we keep Oakville moving in the right direction of being the most livable town in Canada. And finally, our department is team-focused. We have dedicated staff, and that's why the Roads and Works and Operations Department is a great place for great people to do great things. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Any questions? Councillor Knoll, Councillor Lapworth.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you very much for the presentation, and again, thank you to the staff for this great initiative to update us on all the operations within the town. It's very informative and helpful. My question's quick and simple. The AVL program, does that extend to contractor vehicles as well? So would you be able, would a contract snowplow be equipped with AVL equipment that could be tracked by the staff and be plotted out on a map for customer service purposes?
To you, Mr. Chair, yes, it does extend to contracted equipment.
Do we provide that, or do they provide that?
We would provide that.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Lapworth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very impressed with your statistics. I have a question concerning the LED streetlights. Is that going to give us a little better control over light spillage off of the sidewalk?
Through the new outdoor lighting standard, the issues with respect to the backlight and light trespass will be addressed. So it not only is addressed through the road network street lightings, but it'll also address the other outdoor lighting infrastructures.
Is there a sample of that light in use at the town right now?
Currently, we have LED street lighting on Lakeshore Road from Birtle Oak to Mississauga. Now that lighting and those lighting levels were based on 100% of the illumination levels in accordance with TAC Canada, who established what the illumination levels are. And those levels were actually based on the current lighting technology, the high-pressure sodium. What we're recommending through the new standard is that we're recommending for LED technology to use 75% of those illumination levels, which will reduce what the levels are, what you currently see out on Lakeshore Road.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lapworth. I wonder if one of you would like to move the recommendation to receive the presentation. Councillor Elgar, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Council. That is received. I wonder if someone would like a motion to float a motion to rise and report. Councillor Knoll, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. I rise and report that Council has met in Committee of the Whole and had a wonderful report from Roads and Works Operations. And Council, I'd like a mover and seconder for this report, including the wonderful report part. Councillor Grant, Councillor Knoll, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is adopted. All right, you have your information items circulated electronically. You have your status of outstanding issues. Is there any new business, a notice of motion, emergency, congratulatory, or condolence? Are there any? I have you, Councillor Giddings, in the 2 items down, unless you have something else. Or just eager, okay. All right, any regional reports or questions for town boards and advisory committees? Councillor Giddings, request for report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bird and I are looking for a report and ask that staff be requested to review prohibited areas for driving instruction within bylaw 2006-040, a bylaw to license, regulate, and govern driving school operators and report back on options to minimize disturbances to area residents who live in or adjacent to current or future Ministry of Transportation driver's license testing areas.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor Giddings. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The report request is approved. That brings us to consideration and reading of the bylaws. And I need a mover and seconder for Bylaw 2011-99, which is a bylaw to amend Bylaw 2006-5, which is the bylaw to prohibit and regulate signs and other advertising devices, and 2011-131, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of a meeting of council. Councillor Johnston and Councillor Duddick. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and we are adjourned.